Good evening, everyone. Sorry we're a little bit late, but we had a technical difficulty. Tonight is February 28th, 2024. It's 6:15 p.m., and I'd like to call to order the City of Columbus City Council meeting. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would someone like to make the motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting, please?
So I move to approve the agenda for the February 28th, 2024 City Council meeting.
Rob will second.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call for the vote. Ron?
Ron, aye.
Janet, aye.
Rob, aye.
Jeff? Oops, Sue?
Sue, aye.
You're pretty quiet there, Sue. Where's your voice?
Sue, aye.
All
It's
right.
gone.
Yeah, Jesse, aye. Thank you, everybody. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
This is Janet. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Ron, I'll second that.
Any questions or discussions? I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Janet, aye.
Rob, aye.
Sue, aye.
And Jesse, aye. Is there anyone who would like to speak on the public open forum, either in person or on the TV? I see no one. So let's move on to item number 2, LCI Landscapers Development Agreement, pages 1 through 5. Bill, would you like to lead us on
Yes,
that?
Mr. Mayor and Council, at your last meeting, you approved the conditional use permit and plan unit development for LCI Landscapes, which is a DBA for LCI Enterprises. As a part of the conditions of approval, you asked for a short-form development agreement. We use a short-form development agreement where there are no public improvements involved. It's a way to capture all of the conditions of approval, the expectations for the project, and then we include in Exhibit B of that document the conditions of approval. And because we haven't done this in the past, but I think I'm going to start incorporating the findings going forward, because I think that the findings are helpful, even though we know they're part of the record. To include them in the development agreement just makes it clear what was presented as part of the conditional use permit. So I've done that in this document. I'll just go through a couple of quick comments I received prior to the meeting. On page, do you have the document in front of you?
Yes, we do.
On page 1, the cover page, in section 2, where it says developer is solely responsible for the installation and cost of all private improvements on the property, including without limitation construction of buildings and structures, we're going to include renovation. So it's clear that it's not just the initial construction, because in this case, there's renovation going on. So that's one addition. On the next page, 2, under section 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down, you see building official and city engineer. We're going to add the fire chief. Is it the fire chief or the fire marshal that inspects
I think he's
buildings?
the fire chief.
It is the fire chief.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't had that in our standard form, but if there's an inspection that goes on with the fire chief, we want to include that. In section 6, 1, 2, 3 lines down, it is understood and agreed that the construction of the improvements shall commence. Actually, to match the conditions of approval, they need to be completed on or before December 31, 2024. Since that's in the conditions, we wanted to have that line up with the conditions of approval. And then the last comment, I believe, is on page 4. Just for consistency, we refer to Jack Davis as our interim city administrator. That shows up in other places in the document. So for consistency, where we have the address of the city, for service of process, on page 4, it'll be interim city administrator. So those are the additions to the development agreement. If it'd be appropriate, Mr. Mayor, we could ask the applicant if he has any questions about those changes. Okay.
All right.
I just have one quick question. I think it's probably to Jack or maybe to the applicant. In this section on page, I think it's page 3, it talks about the occupancy permit. And I know I raised a question at our last meeting about whether there had been a temporary occupancy permit granted. And I know you guys were going to look into it, so I was wondering if we knew the answer to that.
I do not.
Okay. So, and the reason I'm asking is because it says no occupancy permit shall be issued until the completion of the following, but it's my understanding are you doing business out of that house now?
Mostly not. So we'll
Hey,
be
Bill.
doing some, and then we'll have, during construction, we plan on having a mobile office.
Okay,
That we're gonna be operating out of.
okay,
And most office people will be officing from home,
okay,
with the exception of a mobile office there for meetings and our operations manager and possibly the project manager.
okay. I just wanted to make sure we had clarity across both of us about whether or not there could be people working out of that home. So I'm assuming if there's no temporary occupancy permit and they can't get an occupancy permit until all of the work is done, then there shouldn't be employees in there? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Anybody else? Rob?
No, no, Mayor.
All right. Then I'll make the motion to approve the short-form development agreement and landscape deposit for the LCI Landscapes Incorporated, PUD CUP. The requirement that all trucks hauling materials to and from the facility be covered to reduce particulates, airborne particulates, and the revised finding of fact statement 7 as exhibited in attachments 1 and 2 of the staff report, items C2 and for the February 28th, 2024 City Council meeting. Is there a second?
Do we need to add the changes that you read, or?
No, they're
Okay.
in the record, and I'll
Okay.
pick them up.
Okay, I'll second.
Any other questions or discussions? I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Janet, aye.
Rob, aye.
Sue, I.
And Jesse, aye. Number 3, the recycle flyer, pages 6 through 8 of our packet.
Each year, the city hosts multiple opportunities for the residents to participate in citywide recycling events. These events are communicated to a newsletter postcard distributed to all residents. Enclosed is a draft of the proposed flyer for review that will be sent to all Columbus residents. Staff is asking City Council for their approval of this flyer so we can send that out and get it distributed.
Thank you, Jack.
I had a few edits. They're very small, but I think that I participated in the curbside one last year, and it was unclear to me what you were supposed to do with that little coupon when you had your stuff sitting out on the curb. So it might be helpful if Lori could include, you know, if you're supposed to tape it on there, or if you don't need to worry about it. I mean, it's so teeny tiny, I can't imagine they're going to see it anyway, but right now it just says that you have to present it, and there's no one to present it to on that day. They come. So there was that. And then the other just minor thing is, since it looked like we not only achieved but crushed last year's goal, I would say we exceeded that. And then just out of curiosity, I was curious how they set their goals. So if we, you know, exceeded it by as much as we did, are the goals just set based on some formula or based on what?
The goals are set by the county, and they're based on population and so many pounds or tons
Okay.
per resident.
Okay.
There's a base goal, and then then the population adds on to that. So that's what the formula is.
So the fact that we did so much better doesn't mean that we should get a higher goal. It just is what it is, no matter what you get?
That's correct. That won't raise the standards for next year.
Okay. That was my only two comments.
Anybody else? Anybody? Somebody like to make the motion to approve?
So I'd move, oh,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll move to approve the 2024 recycling event flyer for the city newsletter and postcard distribution to the Columbus residents with just a minor edit that says that we exceeded the goal, and the second one that explains what to do with the coupon on the curbside pickup.
Is there a,
Rob, all second.
all right? I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Janet, aye.
Rob, aye.
Sue, I.
And Jesse, aye.
My calendar.
Number 4, Midco letter of support, number 2, pages 9 through 14 of our packet.
City officials and staff met with Midco on February the 13th, 2024, to discuss the underserved areas in the city that qualify for border-to-border grants and the upcoming BEAD funding the state will be receiving. In addition, the second round of grants for the line extension program and grant funds are opening to serve small pockets of neighborhoods that are currently without fiber service. There are several sections in Columbus that could be eligible for these funds. Information on this program will be available from Midco by next week. As a result of these discussions and with the endorsement of a city council letter of support approved at the February 14th, 2024 meeting, Midco has submitted a project grant application that will serve 23 homes in the 178th, 179th Avenue and Zingo Street areas of the city. Anoka County is conducting an RFP for local grant applications, and Midco is preparing to submit 5 projects for the county broadband RFP program. Rather than wait for the next border-to-border grant round, Midco plans to submit the 5 projects that were discussed at our February the 13th meeting, including the line extension at 165th and Zodiac. Should the proposal to Anoka County not be funded, they will submit these requests for the border-to-border program and should receive notice of the award of county funds prior to the B2B border-to-border grants being due. Midco is requesting a letter of support from the city to include in their proposal to the county. These proposals are due March the 7th, 2024. The projects scheduled for submittal to Anoka County funds are the neighborhood of West Broadway and Zodiac, 151st Avenue and Potomac Street, Camp 3 Road in Zodiac, a section of West Broadway and Zingo Streets. These locations are exhibited in maps that are included in your packet. Midco is also reviewing the cost of building the 172nd Avenue and Notre Dame line extension. Their plan will be either to build the project or, if it is cost prohibitive, include it in their Anoka County proposal. No local funds are being requested for these projects. Staff has requested that City Council approve the letter of support for these projects for Midco to submit with their grant application.
Anybody, questions or discussion?
Nope.
No, this is fantastic. We're very happy.
And I believe if you'll look on there, this will result in well over 100 new connections that were underserved or unserved prior to this process being started.
And then I think, what we'd be working with Midco after this is to try to identify any small pockets. That really should take care of the big neighborhoods in the Columbus, and there may still be some small pockets of houses that don't have adequate service, and in those cases, we would be trying to identify those and then send information out so that they could sign up for the line extension program. And then we will have achieved the goal of bringing high-speed internet to all of Columbus.
I think Columbus is making more progress than any of the cities in Anoka County that have these issues, so it's a credit to all the hard work that's been done by people that have come up to this prior to this date. So I think Midco's been very responsive and very good to work with.
Janet, would you like to make the motion since
Oh,
you've been
I would love to.
shepherding this?
And I'm just, yes, so I would move to approve the City of Columbus support letter for broadband partnership RFP to be submitted by Mid-Continent Communications, or Midco, to expand broadband access to more residents in Columbus. And I'll just say that there's a few minor edits that I have, that I've talked to Jack about, just to make the wording consistent with what we've done in the past. But it doesn't change the intent of the letter.
As Ron, I'll second it.
Any other questions or discussion?
Ron, aye.
Oh, called for a vote. Janet, aye.
Rob, aye.
So I.
And Jesse, aye. So, let's hope they do it.
Yeah.
Get her done. Thank you, Janet, for everything you've done. All right. Letter D, engineer report. Kevin, has there been anything exciting going on in Columbus lately?
It's kind of slow around Columbus these days, except for one little incident we had over the weekend. In the wee hours of Saturday morning, we had a car leave the road of Running Aces Boulevard and crash into the north wall of well house number 2. The accident did a little bit of, it appears, minor damage inside the building. It did knock out a chemical feed line that was causing water to spray all over, so the public works staff had to shut the wells down for a period of time. And then on Saturday, they were able to get that line repaired and get one of the wells back online. We currently have one of the wells down because there is some damage to some switches and some electrical wiring in there. So between Jim and I, we've been coordinating between the League of Minnesota Cities insurance agent, and also I've made contact with Rice Lake Construction, who was the original contractor in the building, to see if they could help us out there. So we met with the insurance agent yesterday, and he took all kinds of pictures and gave us some direction on how we needed to proceed. And so we did get a bid from Rice Lake just to come in and clean up the debris and get the building secured. And so they did provide us a bid on that. And that bid was in the amount of $16,425. And that's basically to knock, well, the good news is, in terms of the damage to the wall, it occurred through an area that's actually a knockout wall for future expansion. So what's going to happen is we're going to knock out the rest of that knockout wall and clean up all the debris and get a temporary 2x4 stud wall put back in place so we can secure the building until we can get a permanent fix put back in there. And so we've authorized Rice Lake to proceed. We do have approval from the league as far as the insurance goes. And so Rice Lake is going to be on site tomorrow morning and get the inside of the building cleaned up, get the rest of the knockout wall removed, and get a temporary wall in there. And they figure it could be just a day job, or it may carry into part of Friday, but it should be done certainly by Friday morning. So with that, Jim is coordinating with an electrician to get some of the electrical work taken care of. In Control, who does all the automation for the city, they're going to come in and fix some slow switches, and we hopefully by Wednesday or Thursday we'll get the pumps, the other well, back up and running. If there's no serious issues, we'll have Renner well will come out and observe the pumps to make sure there's no issues with that. So in the meantime, we'll be working on putting a small bid package together. We do need to get at least a couple quotes on restoring the permanent wall back in place. We will need to get a building permit and all that, so we'll need to have some minimal details and specifications for that, and to get a couple bids that'll be required for insurance as well. But once we have the building secured, we'll have some time to kind of get that all pulled together. So
that's kind of the update. Yes, a little bit of excitement, kind of a strange incident, but I guess anything can happen, so.
So there. Any questions, anyone?
Have we had any updates from the sheriff's department on the incident?
The latest update on that is that the deputies have spoken with the driver and gotten his insurance information, so that's all we know to date.
Did you say had or had not?
Had.
Oh,
They
good.
got that today.
Okay, good.
And the league was going to get that information as well, so, because I'm sure they'll be going after that.
Anything else,
No
Kevin?
doubt.
That's all I have.
Or is that enough? That's enough.
Enough for now.
All right, attorney report. Bill.
One item, Mr. Mayor and Council, at your workshop, after the presentation by the chamber, the question was asked of us whether the city could become members of the chamber. The answer is no. I was a little surprised myself, but there's actually an attorney general's opinion on the subject. There's also a statute on the subject. So that leads us to kind of how does Forest Lake City work with the chamber? And you can have a consulting arrangement, which is what Forest Lake, the city of Forest Lake does with the Forest Lake Chamber. They have a business retention and expansion program that they run through the chamber. And specifically, the statute does allow a city to spend a maximum contribution of $50,000 if the city is purchasing services through the chamber. They have to be directed at economic development, business expansion, those sorts of things, promotion, development, improvement of the city. So if the city decides they want to work with the chamber, there's certainly a way to do that, but you cannot become a member of the chamber and pay dues.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Anything else?
I'll bring back, there was a question about whether we could use some of the lodging tax for promotion, including the Fall Fest. And so when we bring back information, we're going to bring back a resolution to the council. When I do that, we'll have an answer to that question as well.
Thank you. City council members report.
I have nothing, just one real quick question about, on the Capitol next week. What time does that all start?
Yeah, that's going to be
I'm
my
going to
question.
give an update on that.
Oh, okay. Well, great.
In my report.
Janet?
Just two quick things. I think Jack sent to you all the little mini report from the Sunrise. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. But basically, it's just an annual update that we put together for the members of the JPA, letting you know what's been accomplished in the last year. And actually, there's been quite a bit. And the other, I think, impressive piece of information in there is the amount of grant money that I have to give Jamie credit for securing that. He's been able to bring in over $1 million of grant money into that organization in the last 10 years, which has really pretty much funded most of the projects that they've done. So, and a lot of the projects are things like, you know, the netting of the carp or rain gardens or shoreline stabilization projects or things like that. So it's, you know, they've done pretty well for a little organization. And then the only other thing I had was that at the meeting, I think I maybe had mentioned that there was a, oh gosh, what they call it, convene meeting of the Lower St. Croix Partnership, what we used to refer to as a One Watershed, One Plan. So this is the group that gets together and decides how the money that gets allocated from Bowser to these different watershed organizations or partnerships gets spent. And in the past, the Lower St. Croix watershed is somewhat unique because they have a metro portion and a non-metro portion, so they get two allocations of dollars. And they had the option of separating those dollars and just spending the metro portion in the metro area, or combining it for the entire watershed. This is now the third allocation of money that has been distributed by Bowser, and it's gone up quite a bit with each distribution. The metro portion was somewhere around $1.25 million, and the non-metro portion is close to $900,000. So I was appointed to be on that convene meeting again, along with Tim Melchior and then a whole bunch of other people from watershed districts. And in the past, the funding hasn't been quite so large, but it is intended to be funding municipalities as well, local governments, and they just have not really had much interest in doing that. And so I had raised that again at the meeting, and there was actually unanimous support of doing that. So I'm working with Kyle Axtell, who kind of ran the meeting. He's in the South Washington Watershed District staff person, and we're sending out information to all of the municipalities in the Lower St. Croix watershed area, as well as the watershed districts and the WMOs and the soil and water conservation districts, basically saying that if there is a project that fits any of those Bowser-approved plans that would serve a local community but would not be considered fundable by the Lower St. Croix partnership, that you can submit a proposal for having those funded, and we will be looking at that in a month or so and then deciding how much of that pot we'll distribute in that way. So I've talked to Jack about it. I know that Jamie is planning to submit a couple of projects on behalf of this Sunrise River. But I think, you know, Kevin, if you have any ideas of anything that would, I guess that would be sort of the northern part of our community. If there's anything up there that you can think of, that let us know, and we can talk to Jamie whether that fits into their plan.
Rob?
I know we were all at the meeting, but just brief overview of what we had last week for the City Council and Planning Commission workshop. Megan Rogers was in, gave us a rundown on the cannabis legislation that was passed, and kind of the cans and can'ts around it, talks about municipal things and what that all means, what it means to have private individuals in here selling things as such, sales and rules around growing. So it's very informational, I thought. It was well put together, and she was able to answer pretty much everything we threw at her. So yeah, I mean, that was the bulk of the meeting, just a conversation around that between the City Council and Planning Commission. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you. City Administrator, Jack?
Thank you, Jesse. Relating to Ron's question, the City Day on the Hill event is scheduled for next Thursday. If anyone's interested, the league has a program going on all day. It starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. I have a copy of the agenda. If anybody's interested, I can send that to you. If you'd like to register for that, we can get you registered. The agenda, I don't think, is going to be that attractive. The other part of it is our meeting of our representatives. We're scheduled to meet at Bill's office at noon for lunch, and then at 1 o'clock we'll go around to talk with the representatives for Columbus and any others that he has set up for us. So arrangements to travel, we have to get together and see if anybody wants to carpool. We have to do 2 people in a car, though. So if you have any questions, get up with me, but the schedule is to meet at Bill's office at noon. I can send directions out to that if you need those, and that will be I think, the highlight of the tour. But if you would like to register for the morning program, call me and I'll give you the agenda and you can see if you want to attend. The other thing that I want to report on is the Columbus Business Breakfast Meeting, which is scheduled for March the 14th. The meeting will start, registration will begin at 7:30, and the breakfast will be served at 8. And at 8:30, we have speakers lined up, which will include Joe McPherson from the Anoka County Highway Department, who will give a briefing on projects related to the city of Columbus, not only within the city, but those also external to the city that have a bearing on our transportation issues. Nanette with the Forest Lake Area Chamber of Commerce will be a speaker too. And Alex Guggenberger with the County Tax and Records Division will speak on how city taxes relate to businesses and how businesses are taxed, there's a little bit difference in the way they do, and briefly touch on the fiscal disparities issue. Also, we have sent invitations out to Senator Croon and Representative West. Senator Croon has said he will probably be there. We haven't heard back from Mr. West yet. And Jeff Reinert, the county commissioner, will be there. So we'll start off with some opening remarks from the mayor. Dean Dahl will also speak and be welcome, all of us, and they'll have a breakfast, and hopefully there'll be a lot of good exchange of information there with the business community. The last thing I have is we had a call today from an individual that's interested in purchasing a piece of city property at the intersection of West Freeway and Lake Drive at the roundabout intersection in the northeast quadrant. And if we want to talk to this individual or any individual, I would recommend that we get an appraisal on this property. And I would ask that the city council authorize me to contact some appraisal firms so we can start this process if we're interested in discussing the sale.
I think so.
It's that little piece that looks like a loon on the loon's head?
Yeah, it looks like a loon or
Not
an
the
elephant.
stuff that's up on the hill, right?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, I'd say go for it.
So what do we need, a motion
Yes.
or direction or?
Yes, a motion to authorize the city administrator to obtain an appraisal. Typically, what Elizabeth and I have done is when that appraisal comes in, then we look at structuring a transaction with the buyer. We bring it back to a closed session of the council, so you're able to talk about price, and that's usually how the negotiations have gone.
I can
So I'll
make
make
that if
that
you want.
motion as recited. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Ron.
Was there a motion?
You just,
You missed it, it was so
Yeah.
fast.
Oh, that was that?
Yeah.
Okay,
quick motion.
yeah.
Any other questions or discussion? So this is the same old, right?
What we've done in all the
Yeah.
quadrants, correct?
Yeah.
I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye?
Janet, I.
Rob, aye.
Sue, I.
And Jesse, aye.
We're still in the land business.
Yeah, but we're
A
getting,
little bit
We're
longer.
divesting ourselves, though, that's good.
we're moving in the right direction, right?
Yep.
And
One more piece.
the final item I have to report is that the property opposite in kitty corner to Love's has been purchased by a group that wants to put in a indoor truck wash facility for semi-trucks. It's proposed that there'll be a minimum 6,400 square foot building on there. There'll be no exterior storage. This is probably a pretty good use for this site. It'll be a big water user. I don't think it's going to generate a lot of extra big truck traffic. Most of the traffic's probably going to be generated by those that stop at Love's anyway. It will meet the city architectural standards with 50% masonry and other non-metallic materials on the outside. And it will have to have turn lanes to meet all of our transportation or road requirement templates. And we hope to have some information back with them and maybe start receiving a CUP application within the next 30 to 45 days.
I have one question, Jack. Is that road built to the specifics that will allow?
It's a 10-ton design
10-ton
road.
road, so-
Correct. It's a 10-ton, I was informed it's a 10-ton design road all the way down to 145th Avenue.
Well, it's a good thing we did that when we did it, right? Any other questions, anyone?
Did you want to talk about the postings? I forgot to do it in my report.
The postings for the accounting assistant have been made, and the city administrator are up. To date, I think we've received 6 applications for the accounting assistant. That will be open for another 2 weeks. I understand the city administrator's position will be open for another 3 weeks before closure. The interview process will start. As far as the accounting assistant, hopefully that position can be filled sometime by the end of April. Do you have any other comments on the other position, Janet?
No, other than if you guys know anybody interested in either of those spots, the applications are on the city website, so we can certainly send out the link, but there's been a lot of response to the accounting assistant one. I've just been monitoring the Indeed account, and there's been 30 applications submitted through Indeed. Then we direct them over to the city website, and I think there's 7 now.
Okay.
7 that have been submitted with a city application stuff. So we're getting a good response on that. And Elizabeth just got the other sites that we post up, I think yesterday. So we'll probably be getting more in the next few days too. So good stuff.
Jack, who did you say was going to speak at the Columbus? Joe McPherson, Forest Lake Chamber.
Joe McPherson, Nanette from the Forest Lake Chamber, and Alex Guggenberger from Anoka County Property Records and Tax Division.
Yeah.
And Jeff Reinert will be asked to provide some comments. He's the only elected official that's totally committed. If Mr. West and Mr. Croom are there, we'll ask them to provide some updates for us also.
And then Thursday, next Thursday already, is our meeting at the Capitol.
Correct.
So we meet at Bill's office.
St. Paul office.
Yep.
Right.
And do you know what the menu is?
We are doing just boxed lunches unless somebody has a dietary prescription, so.
All right, well, we'll show up anyway. And then we all troop over to the Capitol,
Yes,
just like last year, go round and round and,
meet folks and let them know what we're concerned about.
yeah. And I think we were pretty effective last year. Everybody responded pretty well, and we had pretty good results, actually. So, everybody, get your good suit out and let's go to the cities. All right. Anything else, Jack?
That's all I have, Jesse. Thank you.
All right, thank you. On quickly to letter E, announcements and reminders. Planning Commission, March 6th. How can it be March 6th already? 6 p.m. Lions Club meeting is March 6th at 6:30 p.m. So anybody who agreed to go over to the Lions meeting, we'll go meet with them and discuss
One
future activities.
update on that, since they're going to have 12 Lions members and we have 12 people from the city that have indicated they will attend, that meeting is actually going to be in the senior center.
Yeah.
So, for the announcements and reminders, I don't know if somebody can maybe cover me. March 6th, I have a political event to be at that night, where I'm gonna be with senators and House members. But I don't know if someone can cover me for that planning commission meeting.
I think we're all at the Lions.
Yeah, so,
Unless it's going to be a really short meeting. I think that was the hope, that it might be a short meeting and then the planning commissioners could go
is there
through.
anything on the agenda? at this point?
There's one item on the agenda, it's a variance, so it could be a very short meeting.
Okay,
And since they're going to be, everything's in the same building, somebody can come and then we can see if it's,
well, thanks,
I'll come
Ron.
over here first.
Thank you.
Continuing on, City Council, LMC City Day at the Hill, March 7th. Workshop is the 12th. Planning, or City Council meeting is the 13th. Planning Commission the 20th. And City Council on the 27th. And then it'll be April. Yikes. So, anybody have anything else you'd like to add to tonight's meeting? Would someone like to make the motion to adjourn?
This is Janet. I move to adjourn.
Second, Rob.
I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye?
Janet, aye.
Rob, aye.
Sue, I.
And Jesse, aye. Our meeting is adjourned. Get well soon.